Welcome back, everybody. We are on To Be Continued. We got on the same outfit and everything. I got it. Welcome back to episode 9, 76 Lessons, Healing with Mama. And the way we're doing that is through her expression, through her conversations, through her voice.
Mm-hmm.
We are learning all about her, which is giving her healing and sending healing through all of us. Today, we are talking about the 70s and the 80s.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Activism with the Black Panthers. Do you guys remember that time? Do you remember the 70s and 80s and what the people in the communities were going through? What was going on in that time? You know, the Black Panther parties and the community coming together to fight racism and mistreatment in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that
Oh,
today.
good. That's
You remember a lot of that?
I remember a whole lot. Now, I'm talking about not remembering stuff.
Oh, really?
I definitely most remember that was very pivotal moment in my life.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, because you know we've learned that you know you leaving your presidential corporate job, vice president, assistant to the vice president or president,
Mm-hmm.
typing up everything, working in corporate America to getting that phone call and taking it away into the community,
That's
finding
right.
your purpose,
That's right.
your moment of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And you know the funny thing about it is even during those years while I was grooming myself for corporate America, I was always involved in our community as a child. Well,
okay,
you know, as a teenager, there was a House of Peace that
okay,
was on the corner
in Milwaukee,
in
Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Okay.
on the corner of 18th and Walnut,
Oh,
and 19th and
wow.
Walnut.
Look at your memory.
Yeah, the House of Peace, and
Wow.
it was run by the priests,
Okay.
and Brother Booker Ash
Okay.
was the head of that. And they used to do a lot of things like feeding the community. So free breakfast, you know, food pantries and stuff like that were even back in the day.
Okay.
And so I used to go down to the House of Peace on Saturdays and help serve breakfast, help tutor with the kids.
Okay.
And he always called me the militant Woods.
Wow.
There was something about me that he knew that someday I was going to be a part of the movement.
Wow.
Because of the work that I would do with the House of Peace and helping people.
This was before the party. This is as a child.
This is as a teenager.
Oh, as a teenager.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, as a teenager.
Yeah.
And at that time, that's when the movement really started moving, because there was the marches. I remember marching with Father Grappi in the housing movements.
Okay.
I remember.
What was the problem with the housing?
Unequal, you know, we didn't have equal housing.
Okay. What were some of the conditions?
Terrible.
Okay.
We discriminated against. If you didn't have a certain income, you couldn't get good properties. Or the properties that you got were.
Is that just for rental or buying?
That was mostly at that time. It was rental.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even about buying houses back in the day.
Okay.
So we always had the marches against housing. So every 2 or 3 times a month we would be marching.
Okay.
And here I am in my 20s and stuff. And most of that stuff was done by the Catholics.
Okay.
And, you know, and the priests, Capuchin priests and stuff like that. They were fighting more for our community than we were. So I was labeled the militant Woods early on before I even got involved in
so you remember even then you enjoyed working for the people.
Yeah, I really did. Yes,
that.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So and those skills that I had with my typing and stuff, I would help to make flyers for the different movements and stuff like that. So I was always busy. And then as time went along, then the riots started happening.
Okay.
And I remember our first riots in Milwaukee.
What was the riots for?
The people just rioting for equal rights.
Okay.
We weren't getting everything. We weren't treated equal. And
was everything segregated still?
Everything, yeah, everything still was. And the thing about it is, with the riots, people that had black businesses would always post on their buildings, you know, because instead of rioting for positive, we were destroying our community.
Oh, yeah.
The riots were more violent, and they were against our people versus against the system. Yeah, so we had that inner anger, and we were misdirecting our anger more towards the black businesses. We weren't destroying the white community, destroying the black, the white businesses.
Yeah.
We were right there in our community. I don't know, just because we didn't know how to get out of the community.
Okay.
So we built our frustrations on the community. So a lot of the black corner stores and stuff would make sure they had a sign, my black business, don't destroy me.
Okay.
So that happened because I remember the National Guard used to come in,
Oh
yeah, just
wow.
to try to stop the violence from the riots.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow. And that was all this is before the Black
this is
Panthers.
all
So
before the Black
maybe
Panthers.
the leadership was not there
Yeah,
then.
yeah, people like Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, all those
Hmm.
people, Louis Farrakhan, those were never, they weren't even a thought at the
Okay,
time. No,
okay.
no. Mm-mm.
So that's probably how these organizations got started to help with the leadership of the craziness that people felt,
Yeah, but
but no, didn't
didn't
know
know
how to
how to
direct
direct it.
it. Okay.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
so you had that in you from the
Yeah,
beginning. That's
yeah,
good to
yeah.
know. It didn't just come the day you got that call.
No, it wasn't
That was
opportun. It
like
was not
the
an opportunistic thing.
that was a clarion call
Yeah,
then.
yeah. This was that was my
Yeah,
call.
that was
Yeah,
the full. That was like the final call. Like
yeah.
you've been
Because you've
practicing,
been,
but this
yeah,
is it.
yeah. This now you're gonna really put it to work.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So
So thinking about that, you know, before you got into all that, you had felt unheard and unseen, based on your childhood and everything.
hmm
And then you went ahead and you start discovering politics and community and activism in your teenage years.
yeah.
And then you got that call. So when did you join the Black Panther Party and how did you find your voice there?
Well, I joined. If I could say, it was in. Ooh, I can't remember the year.
Well, you said you were
I was in my 20s.
20s. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
probably mid 20s.
68,
Yeah,
1968,
68 or
right at
something
the
like, yeah,
beginning of the
beginning, yeah,
70s.
of the 70s.
Hmm.
So when I joined, when I got the call,
Hmm.
now before I got the call, I was already volunteering
Hmm.
with the Black Panther Party, feeding the breakfast for children.
Hmm.
Then there were political education classes on Saturday where we would study different philosophies.
Okay.
The main philosophy was General Mao Zedong Red Book. He was
Okay.
Korean, and he had a whole lot of philosophies, and we would study those philosophies, apply it to our present day. So on Saturdays, we would read the philosophies and then interpret them into the current time.
Okay.
And so that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Now, whose red book?
It was Mao Zedong,
Do you know how to spell that?
Mau Mao, Maotse, Tong, Tung.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking about trying to get that book again. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mao Zedong. I was part of
Explicit.
the Huey P. Newton
Okay.
in the Black Panther Party.
Okay.
So once I got the call after volunteering with the Black Panther Party and Breakfast for Children program, that's mostly what we did, and we did a lot of senior programs to help the
Okay.
seniors. So when I got the call, being an astute scholar that I was
Hmm.
very into learning the principles. I became a teacher, so
Okay.
I started teaching new recruits that would come into the party on the principles of Mao Zedong's Red Book and
Okay.
applying it to our present day.
Okay.
So as time went
Do you
along,
remember one of the principles at all?
it was just not by heart,
Okay.
no, not by heart, but it's like a lot of things like Confucius say, blank, 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 and then what he said. How can you apply that to today's living?
Okay.
So most of the quotes that was in his book, we would read them, then apply them to our current situation.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun, and it was very enlightening,
Okay.
and it built me more politically, and
Okay.
that's how I became more involved in politics. So after about 2 years or so, and most of
Wait,
the
but so 2 years you left your job and you went to the Panther Party. How did you eat? Like you
we
left your job,
yeah, I
so
left
like
my job. Well, I'm gonna tell you what happened was we did communal. We would all eat together.
okay,
We
but bills and stuff like that.
it was. Well, I went on welfare for a little
Okay,
minute. Yeah,
okay, okay,
yeah, I went on welfare,
okay,
and got food stamps
okay,
and a stipend every
okay.
month, just to be on regular welfare. I did
Yeah.
that for a few years
Okay.
in order to do what I had to do,
Yeah.
and then we would all put our monies together,
Okay.
and we would eat together.
Okay.
We would feed our families together. I pay my bills, they pay their bills.
Okay.
Everybody independently was independent in terms of how we survived. We did it.
Okay.
And so after a few years, after a couple of years or more, I was asked, did I want to move up in the organization?
Okay.
And that's when they made me deputy commander.
Okay.
And there weren't that many women in the Black Panther Party.
Really?
No, not as
Okay.
many as there were men.
Okay.
And I had more respect as a woman
Okay.
from the men that were in the party than I would have got respect outside
Okay.
as being a woman. So just being that strong, whatever it was about me, it made them respect me.
Militant Woods.
Militant Woods, there we go. Like all my years of militant training,
Yeah.
pre-militant training, they accepted me as deputy commander. I became
Okay.
second in charge.
Oh wow. So you
Yes.
had rank
Yes, I had
in this
rank.
organization.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
And I was
Queen.
treated with that rank.
Queen
And
Deputy.
I was, and there was
Put some
no,
respect on her
and
name.
yeah, and there was no jealousy or any feedback from the men in the
Mm-hmm.
organization. I was treated just like one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was very
Oh,
encouraging.
that's great.
And then after that, we did do, we didn't carry guns. UEP Newton, he was always in the chair with a gun, but
Yeah.
it really wasn't about being armed.
Okay.
We were more about self-help and
Okay.
helping our community. A
So
lot of
when you talk
people,
about these breakfasts, what did that consist of? Helping people, just making sure food was available
you're
every
just making
week?
sure
Because that
that,
was a big problem, kids eating.
yeah, 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 it was a big problem.
Okay.
Probably the same now because, well, they try to do stuff free now.
Mm-hmm.
Free lunch, all that kind of stuff, free breakfast in the schools
Yeah.
and stuff. We started
You all
that.
start. Okay.
We started that. So every Saturday we would, you know, get donations from different businesses and stuff to do the breakfasts, and we would
Yeah.
feed those kids every Saturday morning.
Okay.
It wasn't every day, but it
Okay.
was every Saturday.
So as deputy commander, what did that consist of you doing? What were you in charge of?
Oh man, I was charged about everything because men
Okay.
folks. Now, I
We're
love
gonna
the
give you this fancy
I
title,
love
deputy
the
commander.
I love the brothers in the party, but man, you need the leadership of a woman sometimes to keep stuff together.
That's
But
right.
most of it consisted of making sure that the education classes went on, making sure that the breakfast program stuff was organized,
Okay.
making sure that any of the marches and stuff that we did that we were organized.
Okay.
So most of it was but just being organized.
Organizational development, which
Organizational
is what
management and
you
development.
later went on to get a
Get
master's in
yeah,
because
yeah.
you practiced
Yeah,
it first.
I'm already a master of it. Organizational management and
Yeah.
leadership. And then from then we started branching out, and we formed a neighborhood crime prevention program in 1975, Project Respect.
Yeah.
And
So y'all began to start businesses
then
and
we
things
started
from
doing
that.
community stuff.
Okay.
Not exactly businesses, called it was nonprofit.
It was but you had grants and
Yeah, we
money
had
to
grants
do
and
what
stuff.
you do.
Yeah, it took us a while to get them
Okay.
because with Project Respect, it probably took us about 5 years before we got our first grant. But we still was out there forming block clubs,
Yes.
getting out there doing stuff for the community, getting Project Respect off the ground because most of it was about crime. Crime was getting out of hand.
Yeah.
And so we knew that if you was going to stop crime in the neighborhoods were the ones that were going to have to take the leadership.
Okay.
And so we would go out, knock on doors, ask people, do you want to work in your community? Do you want to open up your house for a block club meeting in your area? So we did that for years.
Did you get a lot of support?
We got a whole lot of support.
Yeah.
We used to have a red neighborhood watch sign. I'm on watch, and so is my neighbor.
Yeah.
When we go door to door and ask people would they want to hang this sign in their door.
Yeah.
So we had the red signs all over the neighborhood, all over the
community. I
community.
remember seeing those as a little girl.
And then all a part of the forming of Project Respect, and we did a youth basketball league.
Yes.
The warning, we must respect each other.
Warning
basketball
league. Yes.
That
pivotal in our community.
Yeah, that took off. We kept a lot of young boys and girls out of trouble. We did our senior programs. We would go into the senior citizens' homes. We would just play bingo with them.
Okay.
Every week, and then we would just give them token prizes,
Yeah.
gift baskets, toiletry, stuff like that. And the seniors loved when we would come out
Yeah.
and play bingo with them all the time.
Yeah.
And so we did all that stuff. And then in turn, we developed political relationships. And we had to develop our political relationships too.
Okay.
So with the mayor, the alderman, the congressmen, all that stuff. So all that stuff started growing and becoming a part of our movement. And so, because even they wanted me to run for political office, and I wouldn't do it.
That's what I was going to ask you. Why didn't you run?
Because I was already a community leader.
Okay.
And a political office is limited.
Okay.
You couldn't do that much for people
Yeah.
because you had to answer to the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
Being a community leader is much better.
It's a family legacy.
Yeah, Project Respect.
Now us kids hold the community part of Project Respect, and we still do things today to help the community in honor of
Project Respect.
what you guys did.
What we did.
But you went on to galvanize the community, the neighborhoods. Was it effective? Was there peace? Was there unity in the community?
Yeah, there's all, we always say if you can reach one person, you've done your job. It was never would been a majority. Crime did not decrease, but it didn't increase. But what it increased was a sense of unity and respect that people had for each other. The crime was always going to be there, but there was always less in the areas where we were organized.
Where you were organized. Yeah. So it was effective.
Yeah, it was very effective.
Yeah. All the changes you were making in the community, feeding people, helping the seniors, organizing the neighborhoods to stick together. Yeah. That was all effective. The basketball leagues, keeping the youth off the street, that was all effective. So then I think the politicians didn't want to see the unity, and they started fighting back. Yeah, the Panther Party. Yeah,
well, mostly it was the white politicians.
Okay.
And so more as the community grew, we were able to groom black politicians.
Okay.
So a lot of the black politicians came out of our movement. Yes. And the stuff that we were doing. Yeah. That's how we were able to effect the change that we were, because the people that we elected came out of our movement.
Your movement.
So they weren't there to work for us.
Okay.
So most of the, in fact, all black politicians in Milwaukee were part of our movement.
Oh, okay, okay. So, then you began to get paid programs that paid for jobs.
Yeah.
And, festivals.
Yeah, the African World Festival, 20-something years.
Wow.
The first weekend of August, we had the African World Festival. And that started off as Afro Fest.
Okay.
And I got on the board and I said, Afro is a hairstyle.
Okay.
And they changed the name to African World Festival. Okay. Thanks to me.
Okay.
And then there was German Fest, Indian Summer, Italian Fest, Summer Fest, Arabian Fest. There were all these festivals. The African World Festival was a part of.
Okay.
So we were a movement. The African World Festival was a weekend of local entertainment, national entertainment.
The best part of my childhood is
y'all was there the whole 3 times, running up and down that festival a lot. From sun up to sundown.
Oh, gosh.
And then you'd have food vendors, clothing vendors, jewelry vendors.
Yeah.
Political forums, all that stuff. So
yeah. The Warning League even played finals.
Yeah, they had the finals and stuff at the festival.
Black foods.
Everything was good. And then you had our community organizations like Northwood Cotton Neighborhood House, Career Youth Development, Community Relations Social Development Commission. All these organizations grew up out of our movement, and we all became one bigger movement, including Louis Farrakhan.
Okay.
He was all a part of it. We even went to his house in
Okay.
Arizona.
Okay.
And Farrakhan, he is such a dynamic person.
Okay.
And then he's a gentleman at the same time, because when we went to Phoenix, he had a big tent in his yard.
Okay.
Inside the tent was chandeliers.
Come on now.
Inside the tent on Farrakhan's property was chandeliers and tables with chairs with covers and stuff on it.
Wow.
They fed us good.
You talk about abundant life.
Yeah, oh my God. And he played the violin for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Farrakhan.
Not many people can say that.
Yeah, a lot of people can't, because it was a conference for black publications because of the Milwaukee Courier, which was a black newspaper in Milwaukee. And we all went to Phoenix as a part of that movement. And that was the best experience I ever had, was being in Louis Farrakhan's presence. And we've been to a lot of his events and done things with him.
So the party and the community leadership took you on trips?
They took us on trips and stuff.
You went to Africa too?
Yeah, I did.
What part of Africa? Nigeria?
I went to Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria.
Okay.
And it was an economic summit.
Okay.
And I was there for 7 days, and I enjoyed the whole time I was there. I didn't want to come back home.
Oh. Where my mama?
Where your mama? She got an African.
Who's your mother?
There.
Where's your mother?
I didn't want to come back home. It was such a good experience.
Yeah.
But all in all, community unity, I mean, it was large.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very large, because a lot of people say, it's black people in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time when I say I'm from Milwaukee. They don't know there's black people in Milwaukee. There was a movement that was powerful in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we were so close to Chicago. Did you all work with Chicago a lot at
Yeah,
all?
we
Or
worked with the Chicago Party. Yeah,
okay,
we had the Black Panther Party in Chicago.
okay,
So yeah, so we did a lot of stuff. We even
wow.
did Jerry Springer.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Jerry Springer show. Jerry Springer's first fight was when the Milwaukee Black Panther militia and the Aryan Nation were on the program.
Yeah,
And so, you got these white supremacists and you got the Black Panthers. And the head of the white supremacists kept talking crazy about black women. Black women this, black women that.
yeah.
Our commander,
Uh huh.
and I was backstage and I was watching his face. I said, "Oh Lord, if this man keep talking
About black women.
black women, the commander is going to do something."
Yeah.
So he told him, "You say something one more time about black women." That man said something about black women. The commander jumped up,
Listen.
flipped him over back of the chair. After that, the whole audience jumped in because we
Yeah.
had our Black Panther members in the audience.
Yeah. And to this
And
day,
Jerry Springer ran back behind the stage.
he was scared.
Yeah, he was scared.
Till he saw the numbers.
Until he
then
saw the
said,
number. It was
we
his
finna have
first
some more
fight.
fights.
And he had more fights from that time on. His ratings,
Until he retired.
yeah, his ratings went up. We were Jerry Springer's first fight. And you used to go on YouTube and you could find it. I don't
It's
know
still
if you can
there.
still find
I'll
it.
link
But
in the
yes,
description.
yes, you'll
You'll
send
see
it.
it.
But Jerry Springer's first fight was with us in the Milwaukee Black Panther Party.
That's to have black women protected on national TV is a treasure.
Yeah, yeah.
The fight, not so much, but to see us being protected and live and live in color is a treasure. I love that clip
and
so
then
much.
after that, we had another forum with the Aryan Nation.
Okay.
After that program,
Okay.
the head of their nation contacted us.
Okay.
And we had a forum.
And how did that go?
It turned out perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had a very good forum.
We should have had that film.
Yeah.
So much has been done. So many people have been helped. So many lives, community changed. That work was a big part of your life. Thank you for serving the community. Even though as kids we missed y'all, I feel like we had to share y'all with the world.
You did. You really did.
It's almost like any other celebrity or famous person, you got to share your parents with the whole world because everybody loves them. Everybody call them mama. Everybody call them daddy. Everybody.
Everywhere I go, I was Miss Green. I didn't have no anonymity.
Yeah.
I didn't have anonymity till I finally left Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And then I could walk around and nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
That was a real strange feeling, but
a necessary one.
But it was necessary. Yeah. And then in the end, as we made all these different changes, it shifted because all of our political leaders, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Jesse Jackson, everybody started getting older and faded away. We didn't have any future leaders coming up.
Well, did y'all train y'all?
I don't think we really.
You supposed to train your successors.
Well, we
y'all
did.
Was busy doing the work.
We trained y'all. But there was some, but they didn't have the same.
Y'all spoiled us.
No, the atmosphere wasn't the same.
The climate is very much still the same.
But it was not the same as when we were making changes.
Okay.
We didn't need the leadership to make the changes that we made.
Okay.
We needed leaders to help bring our community together more. We did as much as we could, but we were focusing more on getting equal rights and being able to have access to this, access to that, more than even trying to bring us together as a people.
Okay.
The future leaders, we needed more of that. Okay. And so as time, after a while, the work that we doing was starting to become humdrum.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same thing anymore.
Okay.
And you was like, okay, we've done all that we can do.
Yeah, a lot of changes were made.
A lot of changes were made.
Yeah, radio programs. Yeah. All these grants and jobs created. Yeah. So many things.
Because even when welfare reform came in, we had an organization, OIC of Greater Milwaukee. We got millions of dollars to do that welfare reform program, education, child care, job training, putting people to work. We did that for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And, formed the 2 radio programs at the same time.
Yeah. It's just a lot of history, a lot of, and these are programs that happen all over the world, not just Milwaukee.
Yeah, welfare
y'all
reform
was the leaderships in this one, but
it was a national
and
movement.
even community organization happened all over the world. The Panther Party happened all over the world. So there were chapters. And so maybe people in your community that were a part of it. learn those stories, learn how they may have affected the community that you live in today. And the
Yes.
things you experience may be because they did it.
Yeah,
Like a
exactly.
lot of the free food programs in school, our kids eat free at school because of the work you guys did.
You know, one of the things they used to give away the cheese and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
That was a big grant. So when they brought that to the city, they came to us
Okay.
to distribute that program throughout the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah, because y'all was the head
Because we were
HNIC.
Yeah, we were the HNI organizers.
Because if programs came, they trusted your
They
group
trusted our group to
because you
administer,
had
yeah.
clout, you had results.
Yes, and we had results.
Yeah.
That's right.
You were good stewards.
Yeah, there we were,
Yeah.
and they knew that. So we organized the distribution sites. We even had cheese in our refrigerators.
Oh yeah, sure. That was the
They
best
said,
cheese
feed,
sandwiches
yeah,
ever.
you feed them, you gonna make sure you get yours off the top.
Self-care. Self-care. You know, that was some very important work, and I'm sure that fulfilled your life, because you did it from that moment you left your job in corporate America. You did that until retirement.
To retirement. That's exactly right. Exactly. That was meaningful play.
Meaningful play.
I never call it work. I call it meaningful play.
I love that.
Yes.
And so as it ended, do you feel satisfied with the work that was done? Do you feel like that the world or your community was a better place?
I feel satisfied. Our community was a better place because, like I said, the Black politicians that came out of that movement, generations have become politics.
Yeah.
So even like Marcia Coggs, for example.
Yes, Michael McGee Jr.
Michael McGee, for example. You know, all of those, their children follow in their political footsteps.
Yeah, and then I did community work. I worked for Project Respect.
Yeah, you did. I
did a lot of organizing.
Yeah, a lot of organizing.
Took over the radio show for a while.
You used to, as a little girl, you used to sing our happy birthday song.
That was Patience, Mama.
That was Patience. That was you.
No.
Oh, Patience. That was Patience. Oh. I thought that was you.
Happy birthday.
I thought that was you.
No, that was Patience. Wow,
the time is flying.
That was Patience.
Oh,
so yes, the
that's
grandkids.
That's
Patience.
Oh my goodness.
Little Patience.
Oh my God. So the two radio
generations, kids to the grandkids. And as you wrapped up your work in the community, why did you leave the community? You left.
I left because
you did all that work. And then you came to Georgia.
Yeah, I came to Georgia because I was ready for change.
Okay.
You know, it was time for change.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, after a while, you've done so much, and it's like there's not nothing left to do, but you've done what you needed to do, and it's time for the next person to take over.
Yeah.
You know, pass the baton. Pass the baton.
Yeah.
Time to go. And the only way I could get out was to leave Milwaukee.
Okay.
And if I didn't leave Milwaukee, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, a lot of the people that were in the party with you and the community leaders, how is your friendships now? Are they still here? They're gone?
There's some of them, a lot of them have gone. And most, the funny thing, most of the men folk have gone.
Yeah, I hate to see the black men.
We saw a lot of our female leaders gone, but their family ties are still here.
Okay.
And those that were there then are still around, and we still speak. We still Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And, we still wish each other happy birthday and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, our relationships are still strong.
That's good.
We remember.
Do you think that is still needed now in today's world?
Take for instance, voting.
Yes.
The impact that black folks could have on voting if we would just get our butts up and go to the polls and vote. But I don't know why they just will not get up and vote.
So there is still some activism needed.
There's still activism needed. Exactly. A whole lot more. And a lot of us old people know that folks ain't out here voting.
Old heads.
Old heads. There we go.
OGs.
We OGs. Yeah, we know people ain't out here voting like they supposed to.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it.
Yeah.
People just don't want to do it.
Yeah, we're a fast food society. We want everything quick with no work.
Yeah, exactly.
We want it to change without activism, without no leadership. We want to talk about it, but we don't want to be about it.
That's right, exactly. But that's okay. There is hope. I mean, as time goes, things change, and it's always going to change for the better.
Yeah, as long as we do our part and let God do the rest.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well,
as long as you do your part. Don't just sit back and relax. because there's no time for relaxing like that.
Got to
We can
step to the front.
chillax, but we can't relax.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get, my 40 plus, my Gen X, my 40 plus people to understand. Like, we can't sit down. We got to speak up. We got to use our voice. We got to use our talents, abilities, our experience, skills. It has to continue. We got to continue to talk and continue to show up. We are not retired. We like to think that we're retired. Right. We like to sit back and be like, just keep me in the background. But it's still so much work to be done with our youth, with our communities, in the world. And we're going to do this. Yeah. The world is going to be a better place. One day at a time. That's what we do. One generation at a time. Yeah. I'm not giving up on the kids. Everybody want to give up on the kids. We cannot. We cannot give up on them. I know they make it hard, but they didn't give up on us. Your parents didn't give up on you. No, they didn't. And we cannot give up. So, we're going to take these lessons that she's taught us about community, get inspired. Yeah. Do something in your community. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Especially going to vote, not just for presidential, but our local elections, getting into your city. A lot of times we're not planted, though. We move around so much. We what's called digital nomads. That's true, yeah. We don't really dig into our community because we're worldwide. But we got to find a way to still take care of the community. Our community has stretched further than our community. But if we just take care of our local community, we'll all be united and connected. And whatever community you in, just don't just be a participant, but actually be an activist. Yes. Find some way to activate your community for the better. Make a change. No matter how small it is, make a change. Yeah, well, thank you so much. You need to have a retirement party from the community, at least, even if not from work. We need to celebrate her in some type of way for her community work. You retire from that. Yeah. In the way of not being activists. Yeah, never had a retirement party. But there's some celebration you still got to do, man. I know. Thank you so much. Hercules. Round of applause for your work in the community. Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Commander. That's right. Doris. And, just showing up so many years effortlessly for the community, for the people, for your family, for the world. Happen any other way. Everybody, hopefully you are inspired, ready to go out in your community and work, ready to show up and be an activist in the community, in the world, and to make this place better, okay? We're not giving up. That's right. It's 2025. We're going to keep hope alive. What's the best that can happen? What is the best that can happen when you do? Yes. All right? Answer yourself, tell yourself, and let's do it. See y'all next week. Peace out. Take care.